We get everybody up here, all right? Well, thanks, Mike. Now, as you mentioned, we are going to be talking about technology acquisition because, traditional procurement processes, they've got a little bit of a reputation. And agencies are now trying to prioritize some innovation and new agile vehicles to get things up to speed and more efficient and better. So let's talk about that, accelerating it, procurement, and what these changes mean for federal technology. So with me today, I'll go down the line. We have Leslie Beavers, Principal Deputy CIO at DoD. Leslie, welcome.
Morning.
Kayla Gunter, Acting Associate CIO and Director of the Federal IT Program Management at NNSA. Samir Kamani, a Federal Solution Architect at GitLab. And Joanne Wojtek, Program Director of the NASA SOUP program. Welcome, everyone. Leslie, I'm going to start with you because you're right here. DoD, obviously huge.
Right.
What are some of the norms and things that are happening in acquisition that do need to be updated because they can be a little bit of a hurdle to efficiency?
Yeah, it's a hurdle. Acquisition within the department has a long history of being challenging. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're doing acquisition within the department is they think of it individually, like they're buying something for them. And if you think back to the recent strike in Iran, that was actually a system of systems. And our ability to get that many aircraft in the air in a certain place and drop a bomb in a certain location efficiently and keep it quiet, that required so much integration. And so there isn't anything that we buy in the department that doesn't have to integrate with something else, and that interoperability and building out the system of systems is a real challenge. So as we've matured in our process and with the new administration, what we're focusing on is bringing in more of the commercial technology and leverage, instead of building kind of bespoke tools for us, leveraging the commercial capabilities as much as possible and working on that interoperability piece.
Kayla, I want to bring it to you because NNSA is adjusting to this evolving world as well. So how are you doing that with efficiency and procurement and these, as Leslie said, systems of systems?
It's a problem for us as well. We're moving towards a lot of enterprise licensing, enterprise contracting agreements. We're taking a better look at the contract vehicles that we have today and the ones that we should pivot to. And we're working alongside all of our stakeholders across the nuclear security enterprise to do this, to ensure everyone's needs are met. And we're also doing this across the department and with other federal agencies as well.
I definitely want to talk about that cooperation because I know that's a big part of this. But Joanne, I want to come to you because I know SOUP is really doing work here. How is SOUP evolving to support these agencies in leveraging efficiency?
So SOUP is currently in our 5th iteration, going to our 6th. We made major changes between 4 and 5 to fully capture what agencies are doing and really focus not on, to the point at the beginning there, not just on the individual purchase, but on the agency-wide and mission-wide requirements and providing what we called marketplaces and we'll call storefronts in SOUP 6, where an agency or any group can come together and say, we want to buy this, we don't know when, we just want to know that it's always there, and we want to have it set up ahead of time, maybe for security reasons, it has to have certain things, or for pricing reasons, or whatever the reasons might be, can set up a storefront, can set up policies for that agency, for that group, and have it built into our system. So when their customers come to use us, they don't have to wonder what they should do. They just will have it right there at their fingertips.
And Samir, I didn't forget about you. I know obviously that we have this industry perspective, and you're bringing. That gets back to the collaboration conversation. How is industry, how are agencies working together and making sure everybody's keeping up?
Yeah, absolutely. No, so industry has to meet with wherever the federal needs are. And we're doing a pretty good job of doing that. The problem has always been in the packaging, how we package it, how we sell it. While enterprise agreements are great and awesome, They do require a lot of effort to package in a certain way and offer it. Generally, it's not just the procurement of the system, it's also the training that goes with it, the operational maintenance, whatever that goes with it. Along with that, we're offering SaaS solutions now, which are FedRAMP ready and available. So the industry is doing a lot of that as well, but having these vehicles is critical and important. And the understanding that, you don't buy little things. If you buy bigger blocks, you get better scale, better capability, better integration in general.
Yeah, integration, interoperability, we're bringing these things up right to the fore. So to that end, data. It's all I hear about.
Right.
At DoD, obviously, you've got so much data. It's a huge agency. How do you deal with this data interoperability conundrum?
Yes, thanks. I think data is one of the unsung heroes, and it has fundamentally been underappreciated, the level of deliberate effort that is required to make data interoperable. And I think Congressman Sessions brought it up earlier. It is foundational to the interoperability. And within the department, we've been on a journey for the last about a year now, a little less, with our Zero Trust, PFMO, and the CDAO, the Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office, to figure out how to develop essentially a data dictionary capability, which enables you to do the translation and do the matching with your data tags so that you don't have to redo how everyone does their job. It's adding that layer. If you think about it, if you've got, a German, Spaniard, and a French person in the room, and they only speak their native language, how do you communicate? That's what we're creating, is that translation dictionary. There are about 7 blocks to it. We've taken the approach to actually pilot the effort first, and then do the strategy, and then figure out how to roll it out at scale. So within the department, it's really easy to take on these big uglies at scale, and you collapse under your own weight. So the trick has been, and we did it with identity, credential, and access management as well. The trick has been to get down to a really narrow focus that theoretically should be easy, make that work, and then mature the capability and have it grow over time. So we should see a full-blown pilot coming out on the data interoperability piece this year, with the strategy toward the end of the year, and then figuring out how do we actually institutionalize it and continue that growth and maturing and developing, which means, dirty word, we have to add it to the bureaucracy, right? Because that's how you actually get information within the department, all the way down to that captain or that sergeant or that civilian that is out at the edge, and they're setting up their network and they're setting up their tools, and it's got to integrate, like I said, with the whole. And we have to think about solving our own problems, but doing it in a way that works with everyone else. And I think that's where CIO really has to take the lead on helping do that synchronization and that coordination, and developing what are those standards so that we can actually be interoperable.
Kayla, I saw you nodding there, because I know obviously your OCIO is facing some of these similar problems. So what does that look like for you at NNSA?
Yeah, we have probably all of the same problems, and a bit more. We have set up a National Security Enterprise Data Council where we're talking about all the problems that you just mentioned, as well as trying to create the framework and governance and strategy moving forward. So, and then on a smaller scale, we have those proof of concepts, and we're sharing data between teams and across the security enterprise to make those decisions happen.
Yeah, I'd like to pile on to that point, because that's the point about maintaining the standards over time, that data council, because dictionaries get updated, there are new terms. Sure. So that's part of what we're having to do on the data front, although the big pitfall that I see is we like to be so specific and so unique that just because we can engineer something to be true on the third Tuesday after a full moon in a month that starts,
Right.
you can't maintain it. So it can't be one, but it can't be that complex. So we're working to, that's part of the full-on, how you sustain the gains.
Yeah, we're talking scale again. Joanne, I want to bring that back to you about soup and scaling and how that works. How are you navigating this world with that as far as scaling larger?
So before I do that, I have to say something. My background is data. I did data 47 years ago when I started at NASA. It hasn't changed that much today. And I hate to tell you all, and you're facing the same problems. It's still worth going after them. I've been doing it for my career. I find one of the pieces that people forget is that the quality of the data matters. And you can do all you want to try to match it, but if somebody puts their last name first and their first name last, which they do, or they put emperor as their, because they think it's cute to say they're an emperor, what do you do with that data? How do you do quality on it? How do you make sure that it's right? So even if you match it up, and then how do you match it up when everybody just says things slightly different? I once had this sounds wrong saying I once had a friend. I had a friend who once worked for DHS when they merged, and I always remember them saying, that just struck me as, yeah, that's real. One group called the addresses one thing, and the other ones called it a different thing, and they couldn't figure out how to make them interact. That's worth going after. It's what you have to go after. But it's never ending, and I think everybody has to be realistic about it's always ongoing. You just want to get better at it and try for that percentage that gets it better. So for us, data is important. We, as I mentioned, from Soup 4 to 5, we shifted to a full data. We know everything and anything that goes on with procurements through our system. And we report to the CIOs of the world. We send out reports sometimes monthly, sometimes more often, either general or geared to what they want about what's going on with all their procurement information, including RFQs, through the orders, what all the line items are, pricing, meeting policies that need to be met. We provide all that information to them because we track that data through our system. So it's been, we've been fortunate in terms of scaling that we've grown in increments. so we could scale through the time, and we obviously grew a great deal in the past 10 years. But we took steps to keep moving ahead and looking ahead to ensuring that we had the capacity for the data, and then to keep thinking about what we want to do with it next. And to the point of Soup 6, one of our big focuses is the data quality. How to best, in our case, it's great to say you want pricing, but pricing can be, GitLab, you have lots of different pricing. Sure. and that's the way life is. Everybody does. But if somebody says this part number is always this price, that's just not true. But how do you determine the quality of the pricing you have? And so we're actually working on means of doing that also. So.
No, that's terrific. I mean, Samir, again, let's talk data. I didn't expect us to go down this road, but I definitely love it. On the industry side, how are you seeing that to make sure that the data is interoperable and it can be used effectively and efficiently?
Yeah, it's a very interesting problem that we also face. A lot of times what happens is the government agency may have evaluated a product or evaluated a system in a certain time period and collected data about it. And that was, say, 2 years back. And we approach them and we say, well, we have the solution that can now change how you do your business. And they immediately look at it and say, well, we looked at that and it was terrible at that time. Yes, at that time it was terrible. That data is old and stale. Let's look for new data. And that cycle of collecting new data with keeping up with the change is really the pain that we're feeling from the industry side, because innovation is really going fast and people's minds, there's just so much going on, it's hard to keep up with all that stuff. So everybody, we talk about data, we talk about quality of data, and yet we're just doused with data every single day, every single moment from all these locations. How do you parse through what is good, what is bad, what is real, what is hearsay. And we're just constantly making that decision of whether it's the right thing or not. Now, what does that mean from industry perspective is, most of my customers, they say, well, give me a white paper that tells me something. Awesome, I love white papers. I hate writing them because I write them and they're out of date. Yeah. So what do? How do you keep up with that? And that's the difficulty. I have agencies that have blocked our website, and our website tends to have the most up-to-date information. So if the agency folks who are trying to get to the data have been blocked to come to our website, how do I transmit that data to them? Well, guess what? Good old PDF shows up. I put it in a PDF, send it to them. Once again, it's as stale as it gets by the time it gets to them. So there's a very constant problem, and meeting people, keeping up to that is a problem. So when it comes to procurement, when it comes to information that is being gathered through SOUP or other organizations, we try our best to deliver as much as we can, but it's always at the point in time of that particular sale or particular transaction that we're working through. And then keeping up the training, the conversation going afterwards, that's the difficult part. And that, I think, we could use a lot of improvement in that area, for sure.
I want to pick on that a little bit, and Joanne, I want to bring you into this because SOUP is this program that is working towards this stuff. That bureaucracy that we're talking about versus the speed. This stuff is evolving so quickly. How do you balance those things to make sure that everything's on the up and up? That's why you need the bureaucracy, even if it's a much smaller bureaucracy. But everything moves so fast.
Well, I don't know if everything moves so fast. Okay. I think like you mentioned 47 years ago. I got to tell you, some of the things we do today, we were doing then with some of the same tools in just a little bit faster tools and more data than we had. And we just had a single line coming in from the Weather Service. Now we have so much more coming in. But I think we tend to overemphasize that things what's the basics of what you're trying to get done? And start there, not on how fast technology is going, but what do you want that technology to do? Don't be driven by what the technology is, but what is it that you want to do with it? And then find that technology to do it. So, we build our own systems, and not our own computer systems, but we put together different. I'm sure we have GitLab, for example. I'm pretty sure it's on our system. We have Oracle. We have all the big companies with Cisco. We use all the pieces, but we have to look at which one is going to fit for what we do, and customize it to where we're going to be with it, and not just take it and say, oh, technology is going this fast, I'm going to try to keep up with it. No, it's got to catch up to me and what I want to get done.
At an NSA, how are you managing that to make sure that everything is as fast as it needs to be, whether you're dictating those terms or not, and as well as safe, secure, all those things?
Yeah, when I think of some of the challenges we have at NNSA, I think about, yes, legacy technology. We're continually driving to the cloud and cloud solutions where our team, we have classified networks, and so solving those problems. But I also think about, in order to move and to streamline and to modernize our technology and our processes, it really has to do with the people and the culture. And I think that's the challenge that I see mostly at NNSA. And we are breaking down those silos, and we have teams now in place that are encouraging their staff to go out and talk to industry, talk to our labs, plants, and sites to try to break down those silos and move faster to deliver more efficiently.
Can you sort of dig into that a little bit? Because I know it is something that comes up a lot, is this notion of culture and workforce and upskilling and all those kinds of things. How are you doing that?
Yeah, so when we create these communities of practice or Tiger teams based off of the organization as a whole. So we're looking across the board, coming up with the key stakeholders, meeting and delivering. A key example of that recently is our acquisition management information system, where we're tying in budget, contracts, program management, to have a system that where one, we can make informed decisions through an automated workflow process. And then it's also data consolidation. So we can see all of our contracts, budget, acquisition, of course, but project management data all in one place. A holistic view of what we have across the enterprise.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I imagine that's pretty good for people to be able to all speak the same language, to use this sort of analogy.
Yeah, and it's awesome too to start making decisions when you want to, let's say, look at technical debt, or start making decisions of, okay, we're pivoting and adapting here, so therefore we may need to cut X, Y, and Z contractor. And we're continuously doing that too, based on mission need and skill set that we have in-house.
Oh, that's amazing. I know at DoD, again, I cannot emphasize, I'm sure everyone in this room knows this, everybody watching knows, so big.
Right.
How do you do that?
Yeah, the scale is a real challenge. It starts from the top. So back in April, the Secretary Hegseth issued a memo to reduce the wasteful spending and to increase the adoption of the commercial technology. And to that end, we've started the SWIFT, the Software Fast Track Initiative, and blowing up the RMF so that we can incorporate the good work that's being done on the commercial side. And I do have to give a shout out to the commercial teams in so many areas, but especially in the zero trust area, which the integration of those capabilities to achieve a very secure network environment is really the key piece. And companies like Dell and their Project Fort Zero have really delivered for us, and a bunch of them. So that's kind of the piece of getting the technology. And then there's the culture change side, which within the department, I think we get challenged with, because we're so slow, but people forget just how extraordinarily large we are, and the catastrophic effects if you break something. And so that creates a level of pause, and we're largely, like Joanne said, solving the same problems over and over again. But I think the way to get through that is to focus on a specific deliverable and figure out the hard engineering problems there within a limited scope, and then set up the organization so that, because at the same time, the department's also really small because everybody knows everybody else.
I've noticed that. Yes, I've noticed that.
And so when you solve a hard problem and it works, people find out about it and they come to you, and there's a bit of a tipping point that happens and it starts to grow. So I think that's really the key, because the culture change is there if it works for you, and it does make life better. But it takes, it's kind of like being from Missouri, you got to show me.
Sure,
so,
of course.
You know, anyway,
Of course.
that's my
No,
2 cents, and it's worth about that.
I know, certainly in talking to people in the Pentagon, and yeah, Navy does something that works, everyone's like, get on the phone with me. How did this work? What does it work? How did that go?
So we solved you wouldn't think this is a hard thing to do, but at the North Chicago Medical Center, the level, which you know,
Sure,
Chicago,
of course,
right?
Of course.
You had the healthcare folks that were the civilian agency, and then you had in the VA, and you had the Navy, and the two could not talk to each other. We couldn't find them in the GAL, the East and the West, and we worked closely with the Microsoft team and engineered a solution, and it was really just a cooperation problem because you had to just configure things the same way. Well, the State Department found out about that, so we're now rolling out that solution to our embassies worldwide, because you had your military folks not able to talk to your State Department folks, and now the intelligence community is hearing about that, and they're like, well, hey, can you help?
Sure.
So it happens, it's just, it's not instantaneous.
Yeah, but that's the collaboration we're talking about. Samir, I saw you were nodding vociferously.
Yeah.
How are you bringing your perspective onto
the
this?
collaboration is incredibly important. I've been on multiple projects, one through ATARC, another one that we're working with the NIST Center of Excellence right now, where we're collaborating, industry and government coming together, solving the hard problems. Sometimes it seems like we're not solving the hard problem. We're just kind of solving something that the industry has already solved. But it's not the solution, it's the understanding of how to apply that solution in that space. That's where the problem lies. And those opportunities are tremendously fruitful, in my opinion. I mean, we worked at the ATARC, we worked with a DevSecOps white paper, sorry to say again, white paper, but that's what it was. And we actually demonstrated how to put that together. And a team from IRS picked that up, and they loved that solution. And they said, why aren't we doing this all across the board? And it was like a light bulb moment for the team, because they've been doing it a certain way. Change is hard, yes. But once they saw it, and once they saw the proof in the pudding, and they were like, this is it. So those kinds of moments do happen. Unfortunately, it was sort of a project that happened a couple of years back. Some people heard it. Not many have heard it since then. So communication is a problem. It's what's in the media now, what's in front of me now, and then it's kind of lost. So kind of going back to the whole data piece of it, these kinds of engagements are very useful, because everywhere where I have actually presented that solution, even 2 years on, to some of my customers, they see that and they acknowledge it and they think about it and they go, that's what I wanted 2 years back. Where were you? We were right here. Communication was a bit of a problem. So where I'm going with that is these kinds of opportunities, I absolutely welcome it. I appreciate DoD, civilian government, intelligence community working hand in hand with industry, opening it up. There's a lot of movement around open source offices. I think those are also another avenue. GitLab is an open source product. We encourage open source, because at the end of the day, sharing that really does make all of us better and all of the solutions better, because now we can get all the variety of solutions coming back into a solution that's really working for everybody. So that's a key aspect of it. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're sort of letting some really smart people out there kind of drive that solution, which is not a bad idea, but it's closed, it's proprietary, as opposed to being open source, being able to see what's in the pudding, and being able to apply that elsewhere. And that's the other benefit of open source, is it becomes a solution that becomes available everywhere. So those are all kind of pieces that fit together to make efficiency happen, is knowledge, understanding, communication, and then being able to see how somebody did something that really gives a shot in the arm for the rest of them.
I want to ask about Soup 6 and that notion. Like, how is it so that it is useful to more people, and how it is effective and efficient?
Well, what we hope will be.
Of course.
Still working on it. We're actually having a mock go live in a month to see if we have our systems ready.
Terrific.
It is a brand new system. I mentioned storefronts early on. And the CIOs, and we took all the lessons we learned in Soup 5. Real quick, I know some of you have heard this before, especially my staff. At the beginning of Soup 5, when we were starting the process for it, I went to our CIO and said, I can either continue to not know anything, or I can know everything. Which do you want? Because if I know it, I know it, Right. And they said, and I was told, go get everything. So it's been 10 years of building what that means, working with CIOs, working with different agencies. And we hope to see that merge into a really strong product. As I mentioned, we have the hope, and we will really build in more policy into agency-specific policy into our system. So if an RFQ goes out from DoD, mm-hmm. DoD has certain requirements for RFQs, the customer doesn't even have to know it. It will be built into the RFQ system for DoD. DOE will have different ones. We'll build those in for them. What clauses you need, we're going to customize it by the agency, by what they want to see on our systems. We want to simplify the process for the customer, so they're just worried about what they want to buy versus what are all these other things I have to know about, and try to make sure that we're working with the different agencies to build that for them. So that is very simplistic statement, but a very major change in terms of all that we're trying to build into it, and the way that we look at our role is not to drive what people do, but to provide them with the opportunity to use what their policies are, what their requirements are, to get what they want. And we're not there to we are there to facilitate. And facilitation is efficiency, in the words of today.
Of course.
and that's a big part of it. I think we're going to be, as I mentioned, data quality. We're going to be using a lot of confidence ratings versus certainty. You can never say anything certain. Like supply chain risk management is a risk management for a reason. We're going to add a little bit more of that sense of, we're pretty confident about this information, less confident about this. So, because we really can't be sure about everything. Data is still evolving in how we work together. So recognizing that and building it into our data systems. So those are a couple of things we're looking at.
No, that sounds like it's really going to be important for that. I know we're sort of running short on time, so if we do have any Q&A for the panel up here, we've got microphones. There's one there, and there's one there. You can line up, and we can go to you momentarily. Sure, we'll go right here.
Yeah, I have a question. If you could wave a magic wand and implement one thing to simplify acquisition and accelerate acquisition, what would it be?
Leslie, let's go to you first, just because, again, you have the misfortune of sitting next to me.
Right. So it would be within the Department of Defense to enable the visibility of the spend across the department. Unfortunately, the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing, and we have multiple contracts with the same vendor. So it's that is, from our perspective, what I would want to do. What I would want to do to help industry get in is, we have, like, if you're a prime, it's kind of easy to get in the department. If you're a small, innovative company, there are a number of doorways to the department, from DIU and from the CDAO office. But once you get behind the door, there's not really an ecosystem within the bureaucracy that shepherds that innovative idea in and deploys it. So being able to actually take in innovation and small and deploy it across the department, and also enable anybody in the department to buy an innovative idea or product.
So I a kind of fun one, because it's, I guess being old, I say this, like I said, for data, I'm going to say this for acquisition too. 32 years ago, when Soup began, we were very innovative. It began because of innovation on a human scale, a technical lead, a procurement lead, and a policy lead got together, and they talked, and they said, we have to help the scientist get his computer, and they worked together. 32 years later, unfortunately, that would still be innovative.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame when we go out and interact with our customers, and there seems to be such a divide between those three groups. Getting them together would be so wonderful, and I think those agencies that work best have those working together.
I think just having a database at our fingertips where we can see who did what, meaning who in industry helped, like DoD, do what initiative. Because right now, a lot of the times it's maybe new to us, but not new to what someone else did, and it would be very beneficial. We could drive results faster if we could leverage resources that have already done something very, very similar. So. And then also being able to use that contract vehicle to do that. So I think that's also a problem. It's not as easy today to get to the same teams that have done work across the government.
Yes, we got time for one more, so we'll go over here.
Yeah, so this is probably primarily directed to Ms. Beavers and Ms. Gunter. So understanding the value of open source and having experience with Navy nuclear, there's obviously a reason we restrict who sees that, where it's kept, et cetera. And so I understand the value of open source because it's free, but doesn't that also create some concerns within DoD and DOE for the maintenance tail? Because now you have to understand, where did that software come from? Who touched it last? The security tail, the maintenance tail from having people having to maintain that software, the security updates. things of that nature. Thank you.
So I would say on the DoD side, whether it's open source or not, we're concerned about all of those things because security is critical.
Yeah, same. It's risk-based decisions based on initiatives and supply chain.
Yeah, visibility is the key. That's the zero trust, the provenance. That's the key to staying kind of secure, so you know.
I'll put in a minor plug. We got a Zero Trust event coming up in a few months as
Oh,
well.
good.
So we'll certainly be tackling that then.
I just want to remind everyone, remember, zero trust isn't something that the DoD just went out and decided to invent.
Right.
It was based on the MITRE attack research, and it is how we operate securely against an advanced persistent threat.
Yeah, and certainly that's identity management is something that
Foundational.
Yes, absolutely. So
Identity management, data.
we got the pillars, of course. Again, I don't want to go too far into the zero trust because we're here for efficiency and modernization. I want to thank everyone on the panel here, and I want to thank everyone in the audience for hanging with us.